What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, Clint. Thank you all for tuning in with me today. We have an absolutely stacked show for you. We had a gigantic UFC 251 that we have to go over and dissect. We've got a little bit of an update for you as far as what's going on Wednesday, because we've got midweek fights this week. And then we have a Saturday event that we also need to go over. So it's going to be a big show, folks. Buckle in. We're going to be here a while. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We have got, let's see, Duncan, Sexy MMA Predictions, Ryan, Boston, Nick, MMA, my man. How you doing, buddy? Stephen Baldwin, Bookie Killers, Mr. Purewell, Michael Lunday, my buddy. How are you doing today, my friend? The UFC Betting Experience, Bufo on the Beat, Oz Taylor, Danny Sayo. You are all already piling in. I love it. Thank you very much for showing up and hanging out with me tonight. I hope you all are doing well, staying safe, and having a good time. So, first things first, right? We got to say thank you to Odds HQ, odds.com. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do it for me right away, right now. Smash that like button. Let's get into this dang thing, okay? So let's recap UFC 251 first, shall we? Start off where we should. We're going to start all the way back at the very beginning, and I apologize. I'm going to try and interact with the chat as much as I possibly can with y'all, but we've got a lot to get to today. So if I'm moving a little quick, try not to skewer me for it. Let's see here. We had a bit of a rough evening, unfortunately. As I always talk about, remember, everybody, this is gambling. As much as we like to put our money in good positions, that's all we can do. You know, you got pocket aces in poker, you shove all in, you get a call, and they hit three of a kind on the river and you lose. You did everything you could. We put our money in what we felt were good spots at the time, and unfortunately, we got a little bit this week. So the first event, or the first fight of the night, we had Martin Day taking on Davey Grant. This is one I'm so happy. I always on Twitter, I post that Neo from the Matrix dodging bullets, because I had a couple of reads this week that I liked the fighters, I liked the side, but I hated the value, and because of that, we stayed off it, and we saved money because of that. So Martin Day takes on Dangerous Davey Grant, and I felt like this was a good spot for Day. The whole time, the whole week, I was saying, I feel like I like Davey Grant here. I'm sorry, not Davey Grant. I feel like I like Martin Day here. I think he's made some improvements in the offseason. He's physically more powerful. He's bigger. He's stronger. He should win this thing. But the line was just too damn wide, and Davey Grant cracked him hard and knocked his ass out in the third round. I mean, that was a good fight. That was a good back-and-forth fight. Day had its moments. He knocked Grant down early in the fight. I felt like he was on his way to winning that one, and then Grant clipped him and put him down. It looked like he was taking over the fight. And, just a really, really excellent job by Davey Grant. I know a couple people bet him and got that juicy underdog money, so congratulations if you did go ahead and do that. That was definitely where the value was on that fight. I really thought Martin Day was going to get it done. I'm really happy we didn't make a mistake and pull the trigger where there was no value. We've already got 87 people live. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. Brian, my buddy, what's going on? Randy Guerrero, Timothy Topher, the Hobo Pope. What's up, everybody? Captain Marvel. Thank you, everybody, for getting in here. And Randy says, new to the channel, already one of my favorites. I love hearing that. What's up, buddy? Thanks for hanging out. So the second fight of the night, Rosa versus Vanessa Melo. Nothing to report here, right? We just need to go ahead and move on. Rosa did the dang thing. She was supposed to do it. She was a huge favorite, and everyone knew Melo was kind of garbage in this spot. So, good on her. Got it done. No need to waste a whole bunch of time here. Hey, what's up, Betty? How you doing there? Henry, thank you, my friend, despite your poor record on Saturday. Yeah, it was a tough day. And, for the most part, we will get into that. That's why we always do these recaps. So if you're new to the show, if you're new to the channel, I always do a recap of the previous event so we can learn from it. It's not just so I can beat my chest when we're scoring big shots. It's so that we can learn from the mistakes that we made and try and be smarter and better and make more money moving forward. So it's not just a Vanity Fair over here. Julian Paiva taken on Master Z, Zalga Sumagulov. This was our first bet of the evening, I believe. We had the under 2.5. This was a late edition on the total show. We got plus 230. And this is one that with the missed weight by Paiva, with how hard these guys were swinging at each other, I really was okay with taking that stab. And when you're rolling the dice on a plus 230 underdog type of line like that, you really only have to win that 1 out of every 3 to show a profit on it. So we knew it was a long shot. We knew there wasn't, a phenomenal chance that it was going to cash. But there were moments, both guys were swinging big leather. I wish there was a little bit more activity from them, but it is what it is. I was good with taking the shot. No harm, no foul. Sometimes you're just not going to catch those plus 200 dogs, right? No biggie. The next fight was really the big one that, honestly, I wish I had gone harder on. Marcin Tybura taking on Maxim Grishin. This was the spot, folks. So I sent out a little update. I'm going to pull my own tweet up here in Twitter. Has anyone else been having trouble with Twitter today? It's been like on haywire the whole day for me. It just cuts out every once in a while. So the angle, right? I don't have any other name for it. I'm just calling it the angle. I guess we need to come up with something for it. Hit me up with what your name is for the best angle so far in MMA history. Is just absolutely crushing right now. So dating back to right when this whole COVID thing started, Alex Caceres taking out Chase Hooper. We whiffed on that one. We didn't see it coming, right? So we missed it, but I saw the opportunity. Since then, that angle has popped up 5 more times. We have hit it every single time, and it's cashed every single time. I know it's a very small sample size, but we're going to work on this and see if we can continue growing this, especially as long as COVID is going on. This is a serious deal. Tyson Nam, Austin Hubbard, Tisha Torres, Takashi Sato, Marcin Tybura. That's the angle. It's been crushing it. Marcin did exactly what he needed to do to win this fight, and it's been absolutely smashing. So when we get a UFC caliber opponent or a UFC caliber fighter who has been fighting upper levels of competition, mid to upper tier, and they have been struggling, they get that big step down in competition that we're not used to seeing. They're fighting a UFC newcomer. They're fighting somebody off the Contender Series, a debutante, maybe their second fight in the UFC, something along those lines. And there's potentially a weight change if the new fighter is stepping up on short notice or if they're stepping up a weight class. That's been this angle. Those are the requirements for this angle to be taken. And so far, it's happened 6 times and all 6 fighters have won. So these short notice replacements coming in during Corona, making these quick step ups to try to get their name in here with the UFC, they're getting hammered. We're 6-0. I didn't bet the first one, so we missed on Chase Hooper, but we're 5-0 on the ones we've actually bet on. So I was so happy to see Marcin Tybura, and let me tell you, everybody was mocking me. Tybura by submission plus 1,200. We were so close. He got his back in the 3rd round. Grishin was wiped. He was so tired he couldn't continue. Tybura got a body triangle on him, and he was fishing for the neck. He was hitting him with shots to open him up. Grishin was hanging on to Tybura's wrist for dear life. It was so, so close. We damn near did it again, guys. And I am going to keep on finding spots like that. I'm going to keep on finding these props that are just way blown out of proportion because I know Grishin hasn't been submitted in years. Marcin Tybura hasn't submitted anybody in years, but he's still a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's still got the size advantage. He was 30 pounds heavier than his opponent who came on short notice. That's the one that burns. That's the one that gets me because we would have been free-rolling the whole night if that thing cashes. Yeah, exactly, Henry. Inches away. I mean, if he had just a little bit more time, we would have got it, and it was exciting. I hope you guys saw my video that I put out. I had to film myself there as I was sweating it live in round 3 because I was losing my shit. I really thought we were going to do it again, and that would have just been unreal to hit a 10-1 and then a 12-1 back-to-back on fight weeks like that. That would have been glorious. Anyway, we cashed the bet on Marcin Tybura, and looking back on it, I'm really kind of bummed I didn't throw a second unit on Tybura. That one was too easy. I know there's no such thing as easy money when it comes to sports betting. We try not to think that way because as soon as you start doing that, you overextend, you make mistakes, you put money where you shouldn't. But especially with the angle. That one was just spot on perfect. And we knew Marcin Tybura was going to follow the game plan. That's the other thing. You can't rely on a fighter to follow your game plan unless your game plan is something that they do on a regular basis and you've got video evidence of it. Because just because I think some guy can take somebody else down, if they're not going to come out and take them down, well, there goes the bet, right? So moving on. Just the biggest shit show of the entire night. Leonardo Santos taking on Roman Bogatov. We had the under 2.5 here at plus 145, and this was really the beginning of our bad luck for the night. We should have cashed this one, folks. I don't know who went backstage with the referees and went, you know what? Let's just let them die out there tonight. There was no referee intervention on this card whatsoever, and I was just stunned at the amount of damage the referees let these fighters take. In any other venue, on almost any other card, the big fights that went on way too long would have been stopped. We should have cashed that under 2.5. And then, not even that. So Santos gasses himself out going for the finish. And I'm like, it's over. That's it. It's over. We're not going to get it. And then we get this absolute gift from heaven. He gets hit in the nuts so hard that he can't hardly continue. He takes the full 5 minutes to be able to try and recover and get back into this thing. I think we set a record for nut shots in a single UFC event on this one. And I really thought we were going to get the DQ. I mean, if one guy gets disqualified, or the referee stops it, or the judges or the doctor stops it before it hits round 3, we still cashed that under bet. I was like, are you kidding me? We're actually gonna get this miracle cash on a bet that we should have cashed anyway. No, it didn't happen. So unfortunately, that one gets by us. I feel just a little robbed because we were on the right side. Santos had Bogatov out on his feet, and almost any other referee stops it. So that one burned. That one hurt a little bit. But I really liked our plays moving forward. So I was like, brush it off. We're good. Not a great start, but with how close we were to hitting that Tybura prop, I felt sharp again. I felt like I was on again with my reads. I thought the rest of it was coming. You know what I mean? Makwan Americani is the next fight, taking on Danny Henry. We had the under 2.5 on this one, and that did not disappoint, folks. I was saying all last week, Makwan Americani, first round submission. That's exactly what I expected to happen. But since they gave us 2.5, why wouldn't we take the under 2.5 at even money? We're basically betting on our guy to get it done faster and then getting almost even money on it instead of laying 240 or something like that. Like, no, it was a perfect spot to take the under. And then we also had the escape rope of Davey Grant showing up with a big shot. He didn't, but it didn't matter. Makwan Americani, he really looks like he's poised to make a title run. I do not like that guy. Again, like I said, most punchable face in the UFC, but he can fight his ass off. He's a guy that I will be cashing in on and making some money in the future because he's a bet on, my friends. That is right. We did drink some Fireball just to ease the pain a little bit. It was absolutely necessary after that one. Roger, what's up, my friend? How you doing tonight? Welcome everybody else jumping in. We're at 121. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Thank you for coming to hang out. And yeah, he did seem like he was a little bit humbled, and maybe that's going to be him moving forward. If that's him moving forward, I will sign up and be a full-on fan of his, not just betting, but, you know, fan. Next fight of the night, Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos taking on Muslim Saliakov. This is one that I messed up. So I wanted Muslim Saliakov in this fight. I really thought he was going to be the right side on this fight. I know a lot of people had Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, and I'll be real with you guys. Dos Santos won that fight. They gave the decision to the wrong guy. Muslim Saliakov got the win, but we totally didn't even think about the hometown advantage. I saw several people tweet out there that the guy named Muslim won in Abu Dhabi. Surprise, surprise. It's like, how do you argue that? I mean, we always look for the hometown advantage angle for the judges, right? Like, that is something that we always look for. And I whiffed. I missed it. We absolutely could have been gifted a unit on our record and some money in our pockets because Muslim Saliakov was the hometown guy. He didn't win that fight, but he got the nod, and my prediction was correct because whether or not it was accurate, the judges gave it to him. OnlyFans. Now, okay, Bufo, help me out here. Are you saying she started an OnlyFans, or only Jillian Roberts fans are allowed in the chat? I'm good with either. So here we go. Here's the spot I just want to gloss over, but we have to face our problems, and we have to learn from our mistakes. Volkan No Time Ozdemir taking on Jiří Procházka, and we dumped 3.2 units on this one to win 2 units. I really was sold on Volkan, and my whole angle on this one is that Jiří's got to prove it to me. He did. He proved it to me. I was a little upset about this one. I really was, because Volkan looked so good in the first round. Jiří's a real awkward guy. He was doing some strange stuff. Volkan hit him with some big punches. You could see his face getting red, and he had a good poker face. He was hurt, folks. Like, do not let the narrative of this guy walked through Volkan completely cloud your vision. Volkan hurt him in the first round, and then he kind of gassed himself going for that finish. I feel like if Volkan had kind of remained calm, took a deep breath, continued picking his spots, sat back, maybe we would have got there. Maybe he would have had more gas in the tank in the second round, but he did blow a decent bit of his load trying to put Jiří away, and that did not work out. Jiří came back out in number 2 and just got the damn thing done. That head kick came out of nowhere and caught Volkan. I mean, we're talking light heavyweights, folks. Light heavyweights, middleweights, heavyweights. Any of these guys can knock the lights off, right? Like, they could shut the lights off at any point in time in those fights. That's why we love the bigger fighters. And Jiří just got the dang thing done. I mean, shout out to my boy BroPix, Justin. He had Jiří, and that was his sole play of the night, which blew me away. I was like, out of all the opportunities on this card, why would that be the one that you went with? And turns out my boy's a sniper. So, good on you, buddy. Nice cash. Congratulations. I'm going to have to – I don't want to say I want to rethink where I'm at on Volkan, because I'm still very high on him. He's still a very good fighter, and fading UFC newcomers is a thing that I do with regularity, but it just didn't pan out for us this evening, unfortunately. Heading on to the main event, we need a little change of scenery. Got a new background for us while we're hanging out in Abu Dhabi for Fight Island. I'm loving it. So here we go, the main card. This is where, once again, I messed up. I have to be completely honest with everybody, because that is what you'll always get here at odds.com, and you'll always get from me and the Die Hard MMA podcast, is I will always, always, always be completely honest with you guys. I initially thought there was value on Paige Vanzant. My initial take when we did the roundtable was that there was some value on Paige Vanzant. As the week went on, that changed. I did my research, I looked into the fight more, and I knew that Ribas was going to be the side, and I knew she was going to finish Paige. I also knew she was going to finish Paige by submission. If you read my articles, which please do, the numbers help. If you read my articles that I write for odds.com, I said to take the under 2.5 on this one. I posted that at plus 125, and unfortunately, I didn't actually make that an official pick myself. Even though, so with the articles, the way it works, we have to write on certain topics. I don't necessarily get to choose everything, and we have to do a certain number of articles every single week. So not every single article play is going to be an official pick for me, but if I was going to make a pick on that fight, that would be the way that I would look. I'm usually pretty transparent about that. I absolutely should have bet the under 2.5 on Ribas Paige Vanzant. That was something I was looking at long and hard and just never got there. And then I called Ribas by submission, and I told everybody that asked, I think Ribas is going to submit her very quickly. And I could have got Ribas by submission at as high as 3-1. We could have got plus 300 on Ribas by submission. Even right before fight time, she was plus 200 Ribas by submission. And I didn't do it. I left money on the table here, folks. And I apologize. That's my bad. This is one that I knew in my soul was going to happen, and I think it was just the amount of action I already had on the card. I didn't want to overextend myself. I didn't want to get too fancy playing the props and stuff like that. But this was definitely one that I should have made a move on. Moving on, we've got Rose Namajunas taking on Jessica Andrade. Absolute amazing performance by Rose for the first 2 rounds. But I'm so happy that I didn't bet it. I know so many people who absolutely laid the wood on Rose Namajunas here, and she gave me a heart attack in round 3. Jessica Andrade came on hard in round 3, and it started to look like Rose was fading. I mean, big question marks for me. This is one where I know Rose, they're talking about maybe she's going to be next for Weili Zhang. And, bro, if she faces Weili Zhang, I'm hammering Zhang by knockout, because the way she was fading in round 3, the way that Jessica Andrade was landing on her in round 3 was scary. I really thought it was over. Sparks Cake Buddy, what is up? Welcome to the chat. Yeah, and you were the one I was thinking of. I didn't bet Rose myself, but I was screaming for you because I could see what was happening. I mean, she locked up the first 2 rounds clearly. That never should have been a split decision. She was clearly winning that fight 2-3, but I thought Andrade was going to knock her out in the end. What up, Skywalker? Welcome to the chat, buddy. Thanks for jumping in here. And yeah, exactly. Zhang would murder Rose. I tend to agree. I think that the first fight with Andrade took a piece of Rose. She absolutely came back and did exactly what she needed to. She looked like the Rose we expected to see for the first 2 rounds. But then after that, something that I've never seen Rose do, which was fall apart in the cage, she didn't do that against Joanna. She went a full 25 minutes with Joanna with no problem. And I don't know. I feel like maybe Rose is a little bit of damaged goods at this point. We'll have to see what happens in the future, but we will see. Quack Attack, buddy, we're getting there. Next fight of the night. Peter Yan taking on Jose Aldo. And at this point in the night, we're not feeling great. We'd already lost a chunk. We don't have very many bets left to roll. And again, same thing as Amanda Ribas. I said for the longest time, Peter Yan by KO, folks. I told everybody Peter Yan by KO. Now, what happened here? This is something that maybe I need to work on. I need to figure out how exactly I'm going to handle this. I bet Peter Yan by KO. And I told everybody that I bet Peter Yan by KO, but I didn't make it an official pick. And the reason for that, folks, is I got plus 190. Now, I know all of you are going to call bullshit. You're going to be like, no way did you get plus 190 on Yan by KO. Guys, I really did. I got plus 190 on Yan by KO. But the reason I didn't make it an official pick was because I knew none of you could get it. None of the books online were showing Yan by KO at plus 190. It was as high as plus 140, and I think that was as high as I saw it out there. So I refused to put out a pick and give myself credit for plus 190 on a bet that you guys couldn't tail. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that moving forward. There have been a couple of opportunities that have come up like that where I've gotten a slightly better line. And if we're talking 15, 20 cents, no sweat. I'll post it, and I'll get you guys on that bet. But when it's almost a full dollar difference, I'm not going to say that I got plus 190 on a bet that you guys can only get plus 110 on. I can't make that an official play. Just something in my soul, in my core, it feels wrong. You know what I mean? Like whether or not I got the bet, it feels wrong to tell you guys that that number is out there when there's very little possibility that you'll be getting it. But what I did do is I told everybody live, I was tweeting, which why you need to follow me at DieHard MMA Pod. This is where we got some of that cash back, folks. I know the record shows that we had a losing night. But if you followed me on Twitter, at worst, we broke even. I mean, we probably profited a little bit if you tailed me on Twitter because we hit Yan by KO and we bet Yan 3, 4, and 5. And when Yan got that TKO in round 5, that baby was plus 1,200 and up. What's up? And I told everybody since the start that I was planning on doing that. Anytime I think someone's going to get a KO and I think they're going to get it late, I'll sprinkle them in rounds 3, 4, and 5. I did that with Dustin Poirier when he fought Hooker, and we damn near got that one done too. Yan got it done in round 5, which I was happy. My prediction was round 4, but round 5 pays better. So I was much, much happier that he got it done in round 5. Unfortunately, the big issue was the late stoppage, right? I hated seeing Aldo go through that. He took 4 minutes of punishment that just didn't need to happen. That killed me. Watching Aldo turtle up and be essentially defenseless by having this monster in Peter Yan just hammer at his head constantly. Yeah. Yeah. I wish they would have stopped that one a whole lot sooner. Not for my bet, but because I wish Aldo could keep some of those brain cells. Next fight, let's move on. Here's the big one, right? Alexander Volkanovski taking on Max Holloway. I know a lot of people made money on Volkanovski, and I'm legitimately happy for you. I had actually a fan of the show apologized and said that he was he was a little off color in gloating his win, and I told him not to. Don't worry about it. If you cashed, I'm going to high five you. I'm trying to get rid of this stigmatism of it's you versus me, and it's always my bet versus your bet. I'm right, you're wrong. That's not what this needs to be, guys. We're on the same team. We're all trying to win money. We're all trying to take money from the bookie. And because of that, we need to be kind to each other, celebrate each other's wins, and not blame each other for our losses. So I will high five each and every one of you that made money on Volkanovski. I scored the fight 3-2 for Holloway. I thought Holloway won round 2. And one of the big things for me on this one was you've had so many people very recently talking about forward pressure, right? Everybody thought that Aldo beat Marlon Moraes. Why? Because of the forward pressure, because he was the guy always attacking, always going forward, pressing the action. Even though he got outlanded, he was the guy that was pressing, and that's why he won that fight. Well, turn the tables, and all of a sudden, Volkanovski is the rightful winner, and Max was stalking him the entire fight, folks. Like, if you are counting forward pressure for this fighter, you damn well better count forward pressure for this guy too. So, in my opinion, Max did enough in round 3 to get the nod on that one. But that's really all it came down to was round 3. If you scored round 3 for Volkanovski, Volkanovski wins. If you scored round 3 for Max, Max wins. I mean, there's maybe a baby argument for Max to have taken round 5 simply because Volkanovski's takedowns did literally nothing. Max's ass hit the canvas for about 2 seconds before he got back up. I mean, so the reason I think Max more deserves to win this fight is because with MMA scoring, it's very subjective. If you favor boxing, if you favor damage, you're going to score it one way. If you favor grappling, you're going to score it another way. Max is the only one who could have got that fight 4-1. If a judge scored that fight 4 rounds to 1 for Max Holloway, that would have been an acceptable scorecard. You could never have given it 4-1 for Volkanovski. And that kind of that's a little bit of the key for me. I feel like Max should have got the nod, and that's not just my bet talking. I do feel like he should have got the nod. And unfortunately, we drop another bet. We had a juicy, gorgeous, beautiful plus 170 on Max Holloway. I got it right before that interview came out that sent the number skyward. I know a lot of people got a better number than me on that one because I locked the bet in at just the wrong time. But I really feel like we should have cashed that one. And that was where, very similarly, the bad night just kind of continued, right? The hard beats just kept on rolling because we drop another unit there. And that's where this whole night came. That's the story of the whole night, right? Was the 2 robberies. Because if I say robberies, maybe not robberies, but if Santos had gone our way, if the referee had stepped in and stopped the fight like he more than likely should have, instead of losing a unit, we cash 1.45 units. And then with Max, if he wins, instead of losing a unit, we cash 1.7 units. That makes up our deficit, essentially. So our night could have been a whole lot different. We end up going 3-5 on picks, minus 4.7 units. Tough pill to swallow, especially after coming off such a big week the week before. But like I said, we got to remember, if you were with me on Yan by KO, or especially if you got in by Yan on that round 5 prop, you aren't sweating those minus 4 units. You probably still made some cash on these reads. So luckily we got it taken care of there. But I am a man of my word. I am a man of my honor. The official record stands at 3-5 minus 4.7 units. I am not giving myself credit for that Yan by KO, even though I damn well bet it. And I'm not giving myself credit for Yan in round 5 because even though I tweeted it at the time of the fights and told everybody as much as I could, I did not make it an official pick. So it will not go on the official record. Main event of the evening, snooze fest, folks. I told you all, Kamaru Usman was the side. Absolutely 100,000%. Kamaru Usman was the side here. And I wanted to pull out my mortgage and lay every single penny I had on him because this was just – there's only been 2 other betting spots like this in combat sports that I'm aware of, folks, and that was when Conor McGregor fought Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Khabib was only a minus 200 favorite. That was a bet that I hammered. That's the biggest bet I've ever made in my life. And then the other one was when Conor fought Floyd Mayweather. they just overvalue the thug life real fighter with a puncher's chance, and these grinders, these high level grapplers, they're just you can't touch them, and very, very few and far between do these spots come along. So wish I had put some more stuff on Usman. I only put him in the 2-unit parlay here, and I thought about chasing when we were live. I absolutely thought about hammering Usman and just dropping the hammer. You know what I mean? Putting 5 units to win 2 on him or something like that right before fight time. But I always tell people not to chase. So didn't want to really go against myself there and chase, even though I tell everybody not to. So I went ahead and passed on that spot. But the best part is we're live on our parlay. Usman got it done. Easy. Coaster. Rocking chair fight, folks. I know it was boring for everybody else, but when you're winning a bet like that, so easy to just kick back and enjoy. We have that tied to Cater on Wednesday, and I am loving that parlay. So that's another thing to keep in mind. We have potentially, if Cater can get the fight done, we've got 2 of those units coming back to us on the fight night here on Wednesday. So that concludes the recap of UFC 251. We kept it about 30 minutes. That's pretty good. Goofy Wagers, buddy, I love you, but don't get political here in the chat. This is not about that. That's not something that we'll be doing. Thank you very much. So we are going to go ahead and take a look at UFC Fight Night 172, Cater versus Ige. I already broke this one down. No sweat, Goofy Wagers. No sweat. No problem at all. You're allowed to have your beliefs, man. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to get political. You're absolutely allowed to have your personal beliefs. I'm not going to say one way or the other whether I agree or disagree. I just don't want my chat to melt down into a political argument during the fight breakdowns. You know what I mean? Let's keep it fighting here if we can. Thank you very much for understanding. I appreciate it. So what we've got, I've got it scrolling down here on the bottom so you guys can just go ahead and see the official bets that have already been locked in. I have already made a couple of action plays here. We've got Tim Elliott minus 120, Chris Fishgold plus 115. Unfortunately, I locked in a little early there. It looks like we could have gotten plus 125. C'est la vie. Molly McCann minus 115. And then the parlay going to Cater. We risked 2.5 units to win 2 Usman and Cater parlay. If you want to hear the breakdowns on those, I'm not going to go over them again because we're doing Saturday's card tonight. Go check out Odds HQ. They are in the timeline there. They'll have the videos saved. And then I've got one bet locked in for Saturday. We will get there because that is the main event. But I do want to just go ahead and touch on a couple of the fights that got mixed up for Wednesday. So we had a couple of late notice fill-ins. John Phillips is now taken on Kazmat Chimaev, I think is how you say that name. Kazmat is legit, folks. I wanted to bet John Phillips against his previous opponent. I thought he was a live dog getting plus 170, plus 180, something like that. I would have absolutely hammered John Phillips because he was fighting a striker. Now, Kazmat, this guy is ridiculous. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's longer than John Phillips. And even though he's coming in on short notice, he's got the perfect style to beat John. So as much as I would love to say John Phillips at plus 200 for this one, don't do it. I'm probably not going to lay the wood on Kazmat because it is his UFC debut. He is short notice, but he's going to take John Phillips down and he's going to choke him out. When the fights get a little bit closer, I'm going to take a look at the props and I'm going to see what they're giving me on Kazmat by submission because that's how John Phillips gets beat. If you stand and bang with this guy, he will knock you out, and that's what I was hoping to take advantage of in his with his last opponent. But against this guy, he's not going to have a reach advantage. He's going to be at a massive grappling disadvantage. And this guy chains doubles. There's no way John will be able to keep this fight standing. And I think Kazmat chokes him out in the first round. So I'll be looking for Kazmat by decision. That's the only way that I will be taking a look at this fight. UFC Fan 10, really? John Phillips is easy money? I would love to hear that argument. I don't see any way he beats this guy. I'm sorry. So the other thing I want to take a look at here is Bell Beta taking on Liana Jojua. We did touch on this one briefly, and the longer I look at it, the more I think I need to bet Diana Belbita. Jojua, unless she shows some like massive improvements, I mean, she curled up against Cheesecake Morass and got TKO'd the last time out. And I think this girl, Belbita, hits harder than Cheesecake did, and she's got these nasty clinch knees. That's one I'm kind of looking at. I feel like that one might end up being a play. We'll see. We've got till Wednesday to lock that in, so we'll see. And then the other late notice fight is Jimmie Rivera taking on Cody Stamen. This is a super interesting fight, guys. So Cody Stamen we saw just recently. He beat my boy, I'm blanking on Brian's name here. Kelleher, thank you. I remembered his first name. I couldn't remember the last name. So Cody Stamen comes in. He beats the brakes off Kelleher. That's strong. He didn't beat the brakes off Kelleher. Kelleher, if you're watching, I love you, buddy. Bet on you, too. So Stamen is a point fighter. He's an incredible wrestler, physically strong, but he's a bit of a point fighter. He doesn't have pop on his punches. He's one of those guys that just can't really get a knockout. Jimmie Rivera is going to have a reach advantage in this fight and potentially a boxing advantage. He's also a very thick is the word I was looking for. He's a grappler as well. I don't know that Cody Stamen is going to be able to impose his grappling on a guy like Jimmie Rivera like he would most of his other parties. So the fact that he can't use that wrestling against Rivera leads me to believe this is going to be a point fighting stand-up war. And if it's a point fighting stand-up war, then Jimmie Rivera is going to crush this thing. I think he's just going to outstrike Cody. Cody's a point fighter. Jimmie's got legit hands. He's got power in his hands, and I think he's faster. So I absolutely think Jimmie probably is going to win this fight. My initial lean was to Cody Stamen, but, Cody's that guy for me that I just can't seem to pick. I can't bet on him. I can't bet against him. I always seem to get it wrong. So I'm probably just going to end up passing on this one. But if I had to make a pick on it, if I was going to bet it, I probably would bet on Rivera to get it done. And I'm going to go ahead and just hit this real quick here. It's funny because I get so many comments about my teeth. No, these are not dentures, folks. These are my all-natural teeth. The Lord has blessed me with good genes when it comes to the teeth, not when it comes to the hair. And my parents spent money on Invisalign when I was young. Invisalign does wonders. Hey, if you are watching and you're a sales rep from Invisalign, please, by all means, call me. See if you can sponsor me because I will shout you out. You do amazing work. All right. That'll do it for the recap. That'll do it for the update for 172. Let's move on to Fight Night on Saturday, Figueiredo versus Benavidez 2. Looking forward to this one. First, though, I do have to give a shout-out to the boys over at GOATCapitalSports.com. They have been absolutely crushing it. If you follow me on Twitter, I have been retweeting their stuff lately. The boys at GOAT Capital have decided to start putting out free plays, and they are killing it. They're handing out free money in soccer and baseball on a damn near daily basis. They went on like a 9-1 run or something like that over the last couple weeks. Just unreal. Make sure you go over there, check them out. They've got really nicely priced memberships. Tell them Clint sent you. They love me. MMA Prediction Guru, what's up, buddy? Thank you for joining in tonight. I appreciate you tuning in. How's everybody doing? We've got 200 people live on the show, folks. What is up? Thank you and welcome to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I appreciate you all coming to hang out with me tonight. Let's get rolling. We are talking Benavidez versus Figueiredo 2. And this fight card is solid. I'm very much looking forward to this one. Let's get to the prelims and kick this bad boy off, shall we? So kicking off the night, we have Carlos Boy Philippe taking on Sergey Spivak. Now, Sergey is a fighter who I had a little bit of an interesting run with. I tried to back him a couple of times. I kind of zigged when I should have zagged. Wasn't able to cash in on this guy when he was supposed to get it done for me. So I'm not sure how I feel about him. Carlos seems to have fast hands. It's been very difficult to find tape on this guy and get a really good pick for what exactly he is capable of, but he works the body, and he's a big, sloppy heavyweight. I mean, he reminds me of kind of a Tai Tuivasa, who Sergey was the one who beat last time. He's one of these guys that carries a bunch of extra weight with him into the cage. He's got good ground and pound if he can get on top of you, but I can only find highlights of him. I can't find like full fights of him, so that leads me to believe that the highlight reels never tell the truth. You know, they only point out the best spots that you possibly can have, and it leads me to believe that maybe there's not a whole lot there the rest of the time. That's just a suspicion, not something I can actually confirm. But here we've got Spivak, who his striking is coming along, but he's still very, very green. Now, he's good at catching kicks. He's good with his takedowns. He's got good timing on his double legs. He's got a good, solid top game. He does have gas tank issues, but he's really good with his offensive submission. So if this guy can get you to the mat, you're in trouble. And if you're somebody like Carlos Felipe, who, I mean, he's not a big muscular heavyweight, he's a big flabby heavyweight, I got to wonder if he'll be able to get up from under a guy like Sergey Spivak. If I had to make a pick on this one, I would be backing Spivak. I'm not sure I'm going to actually bet that, but it looks like that's the way the line is going. He opened up as a slight dog. He's all the way down to minus 130. I did release an article for odds.com. Check it out. And my pick for this fight is Sergey Spivak. If I was going to bet it, I would take it. However, the wider this line gets, the less I like it. At this point, we may have to start looking for some other options. Unfortunately, the props, the totals, those are not out yet. Don't you worry. Total Madness will be out on Thursday, as always, breaking it down for you. And I believe I've got a live show with my boys Mo and Nick tomorrow. And if the props are out for this one, we can discuss it then. But we'll definitely be covering Wednesday's prop card as well. You know, I totally forgot one thing. I spaced it. I apologize, folks. I got to give a couple of shout outs. Last week, we had some people who were kind enough to throw me some tips. And I always like to shout people out like that. And I appreciate the tips. I am a one-man show. I work my ass off. I give you all my information for free. James Apatolico, I think. I apologize for butchering your name. I know I did. Nick Lawson, Alexander Dilling, Tommy Finn, and Michael Lunday, my boy. Thank you all so much. I appreciate the tips. They go a long way for me because I am, like I said, I'm a one-man show here trying to break this thing down. I sink hours into this stuff to give you guys the best information I possibly can. And don't forget, when you lose, I lose because I bet everything that I say that I bet, so I'm not just sitting back and laughing when you guys have a bad night based on my picks. Trust me, I eat that too. So those tips when you have a good night based on my reads, or if you just enjoy the show and want to support the Die Hard MMA podcast, they mean the world to me. I appreciate it. If you do want to send me a tip, you can find that information on my Twitter handle. The next fight coming up here, I got to tell y'all, for UFC 251, I really felt like it was a chalky fight night. I told everybody that I felt like it was going to be mostly chalk. We tried to snipe the one or two dogs that we felt like had a shot. Well, I guess only one with Max, right? But only two dogs cashed. On the entire card, only two dogs came through. And Max should have come through, but, you know, he wasn't supposed to. And we should have got that one. Anyway, the dogs were not barking at UFC 251. The big deal here, though, is I think Saturday is going to be dogs all night. I really think these dogs are incredibly live. I feel like these lines are way too wide. So we've got Davey Ramos taking on Arman Tsarukyan. Davey Ramos is 10-3. Tsarukyan is 14-2. Davey is 33 years old. Arman is 23 years old. So there is a 10-year difference. And usually the younger fighter is going to be the one who gets the nod in these situations. They're hungrier. They're new generation. They've got more gas in the tank, blah, blah, blah. But Davey's only 33. He's still in the prime of his fighting life here, maybe for another year or two, if he's one of these ageless wonders that can do it until he's 40. But he's got an impressive skill set, man. He's a World Cup and Pan American Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, and he's been working so hard on his striking. He's got incredibly heavy hands. He's an absolute tank. Physically strong. He's a bit low volume on the feet because he looks to counterpunch. He kind of reminds me of Yoel Romero, just heavily muscled and waits for his moment to explode. And then he looks for that club and sub strategy. If he can rock you and get you on the mat, you're probably getting choked out. What I noticed on his record is that when he gets takedowns, he wins. In the fights where he cannot get his opponents to the mat, he seems to be just a little too low volume to get it done. And I know that may sound obvious, but trust me, it matters. Arman Tsarukyan, on the flip side of this thing, he trains out of Tiger Muay Thai, which, as you all know if you've been with me for a while, Tiger Muay Thai is one of my favorite MMA gyms on the planet. I think they're incredible at what they do. Jan trains out of there. Like, they churn out murderers. And he has incredibly great timing on his takedowns. He's very light on his feet. He fights well at range. He's got good leg and body kicks, but he leaves his chin open when he goes in for takedowns. He's been clipped doing that a couple of times. He's got good offense when he gets in top position, and he does control his opponents well when they're up against the cage. Extremely high-level wrestling, and he's got an intelligent guard and good use of butterfly hooks if he does ever get put into a bad position. But I feel like this might be just a little too much, a little too soon for this guy. I don't know why you would want to pair up a young, hot prospect with a guy who's got a 100% takedown defense and a world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background. It just doesn't make sense to me. Arman Tsarukyan is currently a minus 210 favorite, and money is coming in on him. And Davey Ramos, I feel like, is getting a little disrespected here. Plus 175 on this guy, who I feel like packs a bigger punch. I feel like he hits harder than Arman Tsarukyan does. Like I said, the low volume is going to be a bit of an issue, but he hits really, really hard, and he's so hard to take down. If Arman Tsarukyan can't use that wrestling, that's going to be the night. If Davey Ramos can use the wrestling, and we have seen Arman Tsarukyan taken down a couple times, granted it was against Islam Makhachev, but Davey Ramos is no scrub when it comes to the wrestling department. I could see the kid slipping up here. I feel like this might be a spot where it's just a little too much, a little too soon. I mean, Tsarukyan came in against Islam Makhachev, which, by the way, never make your UFC debut against Islam Makhachev. And obviously he got beat, but he had a real good showing. I'm real high on him. I think he's got a lot of potential. But then he got a huge step down, taking on OAM, Olivier Aubin-Mercier. And obviously he dominated that fight. But this is just another gigantic step up. I'm not sure I would call Davey a stepping stone at this point. Like I said, he's only 33. This guy's got a lot of gas left in the tank, and he's only got 3 losses. His only loss was to Islam Makhachev as well. So I'm going to have to go ahead and say Davey here. I mean, I like that plus 175. I'm not making that an official pick right now. I'm not betting it. I know that Arman Tsarukyan is legit, but I am scared of laying that kind of chalk against this level of a fighter at this point in his career. So that's my read on that one. I'm not gonna make that one a pick. I'm not gonna bet that one. But I'm starting to feel like there's some value on Davey Ramos. We'll see a little closer to fight time what that line does, because if Davey gets even wider, I might have to take that shot. We'll see what happens. JT, what's up, buddy? And you're absolutely correct. Tsarukyan is the real deal. But that's where you say it yourself. Ramos is a beast. This is going to be a good fight. Damn good fight. I'm very excited to see how that one goes. We have Malcolm Gordon taking on Amir Ablazi. And I think this is a late fill-in fight here, folks. I think this is one that has been added to the roster because I didn't even recognize these names. I did not study this fight. I don't know who these guys are, and I was not prepared for this. So we're going to just brush over that and pretend these are not the droids you're looking for. That's a late edition I was not prepared for. Brett Johns taking on Montel Jackson. This is a fun one. So Brett Johns, 16-2. Really underrated, really extremely underrated. Montel Jackson is 9-1, and everybody knows about Montel Jackson. So Brett Johns, super high-level submission game. This guy is hardcore with his submission game. He took 2 years off after his losses to Aljo Sterling and Pedro Munoz to just improve and get better at what he did, and he's solid now, extremely well-rounded, highly underrated. He's one of those guys that doesn't look like a fighter, but he can fight his ass off. Extremely strong judo. He's got good hips. He hits throws at random spots where you don't expect him to come. He's a human backpack. He can transition onto your back extremely quickly. Good front chokes. Good chokes from rear naked chokes, obviously. I mean, he attacks chokes from everywhere. He goes for knee bars. When he gets in these scrambly situations, he'll attack your legs to keep you on your toes. I mean, he's just a little monster. He's a little Tasmanian devil. He's always putting you in danger of something. And I absolutely love this guy. I want to say we actually bet him against Tony Gravely and cashed in with him as a slight underdog in his last fight, I want to say. And I have been looking for opportunities to back him moving forward because of that. However, I don't know if fading Montel Jackson is the spot. So Montel Jackson is a beast. This dude's huge, absolutely gigantic for the division. Strong offensive wrestler, which we've always talked about. Whenever wrestling meets jiu-jitsu, I tend to side with the wrestler just because they will stifle the jiu-jitsu game more often than not, like we see with guys like, Usman, Khabib. Obviously, he's not at that level, but same idea, right? Excellent wrist control. One thing that I noticed is when I watched the fight again, Daniel Cormier was talking about Montel Jackson's hands and just how big his hands are. He's able to control the wrists of people, and you can't get him off because you can't break that grip. He's just got these monster mittens on him. Big explosive body lock takedowns. If he gets you on the body lock, he will send you for a ride. And then he has a absolutely smothering pressure top game. He will flurry when he comes in for attacks. If you get your back up against the fence, he will fly in on you with lots of very accurate punches. He's got a big left cross. I think that's his best punch. The one thing that I've noticed, though, is he tends to gas. He is one of these fighters who will dig super deep. Even though he's gassed out, even though he's tired, he will dig deep and he will keep moving forward. But that doesn't change the fact that I don't think he's the same fighter in the later rounds as he is in the earlier rounds. And I think a lot of that also has to do with how much weight he's cutting. This guy's gigantic. So he's 5'10", he's got a 75-inch reach, and Brett Johns is 5'7", with a 71-inch reach. So there is a 4-inch reach advantage there for Montel Jackson, and that's a bit of a problem. That's one of those things that, certain guys, Montel Jackson, John Jones, Luis Pena, like we talk all the time about how they rely on that reach advantage, and it just does wonders for them. Could be a bit of a problem here. He's got a 70% takedown defense rating so far of 4 fights, and Brett Johns has a 61% takedown defense rating, but that's because he gave up a bunch of takedowns in his last fight to Tony Gravely. He reverses, man. This guy knows how to scramble, reverse, get back up to his feet. I got to wonder if Jackson's going to be able to take him down here, and that's kind of the only thing giving me a little bit of pause. I think it's going to be Jackson early, and then I think it's going to be Johns late, which, again, leads me to feel like there's some value here. So Montel Jackson is a minus 220 favorite. And it looks like a little bit of money is starting to buy back here on Brett Johns. I was hoping to see it get all the way up to 200. That's where I might be making a move. But look at this. So Brett Johns opened up at plus 235, and it's just been constant downward trending. Everybody knows now. I'm not the only one who's high on Brett Johns here. He is getting hit, and I thought about hitting this thing the last time I took a look at it, but I missed my number. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if there's some buyback. We'll see just how low the line gets. I think I've missed my opportunity. I mean, plus 180 is still okay, but I'm not sold he's going to be able to necessarily get it done. It's going to be close. It's going to be hairy. Like I said, Jackson early, Johns late. Johns can finish Montel Jackson if this thing gets deep. But Montel Jackson is a beast, and he can grind out the first 2 rounds and lock this fight up. And, at this point, it's a pass. I'm leaning Johns. I'm looking at 2 dogs already in this card, and that's going to be a trend. You'll see that throughout this breakdown, is that there are a lot of dogs that I think are going to be barking on this fight. I don't know if they'll actually get it done, but they're going to make these fights extremely interesting. Next up, we've got Joe Duffy taking on Joel Alvarez. And Joel Alvarez is interesting. So Joe Duffy. Who do we know Joe Duffy from? Conor McGregor. He's the guy that beat Conor McGregor. That was his ticket to the UFC, as he had a win on his record over the one and only glorious king of the world, Conor McGregor. Joe Duffy's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm being a little facetious here, having a little bit of fun. But he is not a bad fighter. He's been on a bit of a rough patch lately, though. He's 2-3 in his last 5. And he's been gone for a very long time recently. So he's got a long jab, excellent long jab. He does tend to keep his hands low. He throws from the hip, which creates opportunities. You don't see those punches coming, and he hits hard. He's got great head movement, a good counter right hand. He struggles with low kicks, though. That's something I noticed in his last couple of fights. If you attack him with low kicks, you're in serious trouble. Sorry, lost my tongue there. James Vick and Mark Diakese hammered him with low kicks, and it was not pretty. He has good timing on his blast doubles, though. He takes people down without a problem. He hits them hard, and his timing is excellent. I did see an interview with him, though, where he was considering retirement. And that's something that I feel like is a huge, huge factor here. He talked about the fact that after his last fight, he was going to hang it up. So you're telling me you fight a little bit in 2016, 2017. He's got some injury problems. He's got some stuff that sidelines him for 2 full years. You come back, you lose to Mark Diakese. Now you're on an 0-2, and you're thinking about hanging it up. Fast forward, almost a year. It's 2020, and he's fighting again. Once that retirement word creeps into your brain, that's something that's hard to let go of. I've got to wonder how invested Joe Duffy really is right now. And on the flip side of this cage, he's taking on Joel Alvarez, and this guy is very, very interesting. He's such a puzzle to me. He strikes well in combination. He lands extremely heavy leg kicks. He's got a big kicking game, and his leg kicks and his body kicks are something else. This dude kicks hard, and he's huge for the division. I know we just talked about this with Montel Jackson, but this is another guy that's just ginormous for the weight class. So Joe Duffy is 5'10". He's got a 73-inch reach, which is nothing to sniff at. Joel Alvarez is 6'3", and he's got a 77-inch reach. We are talking about another 4-inch reach advantage, and that is nothing to sneeze at. That's a big deal. He gets taken down a lot, though. That's his biggest problem. The blast double for Joe Duffy is going to be there, and then the fact that Joel gets taken down is a bit of a problem. He accepts bottom position. He's a BJJ brown belt. He's extremely good on the ground. He does sweep well. He does submit well. If he reverses you and he gets on top of you, his ground and pound is vicious. Absolutely vicious ground and pound from this guy when he gets on top of you. And right now, this line is just cruising towards Joe Duffy. Everyone and their mom is betting on Joe Duffy. He opened up as a minus 300 favorite. He's already been bet down to minus 365. The comeback on Joel Alvarez is plus 305. And this is a dog or pass for me, folks. I cannot trust a guy in Duffy who, granted, he's got all the skills in the world, really maybe should be a little bit higher profile. Definitely getting a step down in competition here. But Joel Alvarez has all the tools. He's really got all the makings of a guy who can be a very, very good UFC fighter. And he's got a very dangerous ground game. I mean, he's 14 submission wins. Out of his 16 wins, 14 of those have come by sub. The fact that I think Joe Duffy is going to either take this fight to the mat or he's going to get leg kicked to death puts it right in Joel Alvarez's world. I mean, if Joe Duffy wants to stand and trade, he's going to be at a significant reach advantage, and I really see Alvarez blasting him with body and leg kicks. Duffy does not do well with leg kicks. And if Duffy takes him down, that's my path to victory for him, except Joel Alvarez, I think, is better on the mat than Duffy is. I know Duffy's got a decent number of submissions himself. He's got 10 submissions as well, so he's no slouch on the mat, don't get me wrong. But I also think there's a motivation factor. Joel Alvarez is still reaching for the belt. That kid still wants to be champion. He is still going for it. Duffy on the other side of this is talking about retiring. He just had another kid. He's ready to spend time with his family. He's ready to hang it up. Folks, I might be betting Joel Alvarez. I'm going to sit tight at the moment. Again, as always, I give away all my secrets on the podcast here for free. 200 people just heard that I'm going to bet this plus 300 dog. Don't hit that line yet, because I think more people are going to be betting Duffy. Again, because of the McGregor thing. Again, because he looks better on a highlight reel, and he's got more UFC experience. I think the money's going to keep coming in on Duffy, and if we can get even better than plus 300 somehow on Alvarez, I think I just have to hit that. I just don't know what else I'm supposed to do here. Let's catch up on the chat and see what everybody's saying. Mixed martial arts fan, Duffy. Yeah, minus 380. Yeah, right. And Bill, you're absolutely right. I agree. I do think that Duffy will get him down, but this is where I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a good thing. So let's see. What is everybody else saying here? Yeah, Danny sold on Alvarez. All right. I like hearing that. And okay, that's about all we got on this one. Alvarez looks live. I agree. So we'll see what happens. But, I mean, basically, at that line, you're talking plus 300. You're saying he's got a 25% chance of winning the fight. I think he's got more than a 25% chance to win the fight, especially considering how volatile these guys are, how finishing both of them have been so far in their UFC careers. I think someone's going to sleep one way or the other. And we'll have to look at the total there. I'm sure it's going to be juiced to all hell for the under because of exactly what – it's not bad. Fight goes to decision is minus 155. So the bookies are expecting this one to make it to the cards. And then fight doesn't go to decision is plus 115. This might not be a bad under 2.5. When we do the total madness a little bit later in the week, we will look at this one because this really may not be a bad spot for under 2.5. The only way it goes to the judges' scorecards, like I said, is if Duffy simply wrestles him the entire time. Doesn't look to submit, doesn't get swept, doesn't look to ground and pound. I mean, that might not be a bad play. Pin mark that one. Under 2.5 may be the bet on this one. We'll see, though. I'm still thinking about it. I might have to roll those dice at plus 300, folks. That's juicy. And you know I love my dogs. I can't help myself. Actually, I didn't even know about that. I didn't know anything about Gianni reselling bets. I mean, I like Gianni. He's got good reads on MMA, so big fan of his. But I didn't know anything about him reselling bets, and that's why. Here's the thing: that's going to just open the door for me to talk to you all again. I'm never going to sell you anything. If you want to tip me because we had a good night or because you like what I do and you like the show, thank you. I'll take it. But I'm never going to sell you a damn thing. There will never be a subscription to the Die Hard MMA podcast or odds.com. We're just glad you're here hanging out. So make sure you hit that sub button. Moving on, we've got Grant Dawson taking on Ned Niramani. And this is another great fight. The matchups on this card are excellent. I mean, this is, for a free fight night card, these may not be names that everybody tends to recognize, but these are hungry fighters, and I talk about it every time we go over this. These are the best cards. I know UFC 251 was incredible. I know the action was great, except for maybe, the final fight. It dragged a little bit, but the whole card as a whole was incredible. And this fight night, I think, could match it for action. There's going to be bangers on this card. Did I just see that? Buy a fat shirt? That's what's up. And for those of you who don't know what's going on, Fireball and Popcorn, baby. We talk about it all the time. When there's a bet that you can't make, when there's a fight that you just need to pass on, we call it Fireball and Popcorn. And we've got shirts, y'all. We've got Die Hard merch. Thank you very much for bringing that up, because that's something I wanted to say. I can't get the page to load right now, but Pub Sports Radio, the boys over at Pub Sports Radio, they are hosting my merchandise, and I appreciate them for doing what they do. Let me get this up here so you can see it. Here we go. Boom. Boom. What is up? Fireball and Popcorn, baby. They also have just the plain old Die Hard MMA podcast. If you want to rep the squad, head on over there and grab one of those. I love this shirt. I am so fond of this shirt. My box of these should be getting here in just a day or so. I cannot wait to put one of these on and take pictures in it. And I think I'm probably going to do some giveaways too, so keep an eye out on that in the near future. Why have merchandise if you can't give away free shit, right? So I'm going to be doing some giveaways. Let's get back to the fights. I'm sorry, I got derailed. I love you guys. We have so much fun. So Grant Dawson, 15-1, taking on Ned Niramani, 12-3. Grant Dawson has great head movement, absolutely phenomenal head movement. He's so strong in the clinch, really intelligent jab. He lands these big old step-in knees, strong grappling background. He takes the back well. That's something I'm going to say a lot on this card. There's a lot of good BJJ guys that like to transition for that rear naked choke. And he's intelligent enough. In one of his fights, he got on this guy's back, and he does the push-off. He does that thing where he gets one leg hook in, he's got your control, he's got your body tied down, and then he'll shove off the cage with his foot to force you to the mat. I love that. That's so smart. That's using your surroundings to your advantage. It's so intelligent when people do that. Ned Niramani on the flip side of this thing, incredibly aggressive. He stalks his opponents. He cuts the cage off well. He's got really strong hips. He throws a lot of feints, so you never exactly know what's coming or where it's coming from. He's got crisp boxing and heavy hands. The only problem with Ned is that he's really hittable, especially right up the middle. He does have a big uppercut that he likes to use, but he's a good grappler himself. He's got really good wrestling control here, and this one's tough for me. This one is really, really tough for me. I feel like I want to be on the side of Grant Dawson. However, I feel like this line is really wide. We've got minus 250 for Grant Dawson and plus 210 for Ned Niramani. Yikes. It's another one that I feel like I think Grant is going to get his hand raised at the end of this thing, but I don't want to bet him. Nad's a warrior. Ned Hermanson is an absolute warrior, and he's going to come in here. He trains at Team Alpha Male. Lots of really strong, powerful wrestlers over there. Good, solid striking. Good training partners. He got KO'd stiff by Mike Grundy in his last fight, and that was a bad knockout. But that was in March of 2019. He's taken the appropriate amount of time off, so I don't think he's going to have any durability issues. And he's taken on Grant, who, even though Grant has a decent striking himself, he's more of a submission guy. So again, we've got a spot where the wrestler is going to be looking to volunteer to get into the realm of the grappler. And I really am just not sure how I feel about this. Grant Dawson has been knocked out once, so Nad definitely has two paths to victory. He can win by knockout if he clips him. He can also grapple him and just drag him around the octagon for the full time. Oh, this is so tough. I'm going to pick Grant. I'm going to pick Grant Dawson. I think he manages to get it done, but both these guys are just so insanely tough and so durable. I mean, maybe we look at an over on this one. Grant Dawson only has one decision in his entire UFC career. He's only gone to the cards once. And I know Nad Nirmani has gone a couple times. He's got 5 decisions. I think Nad's going to have strong enough wrestling that he'll be able to defend the submission attacks of Grant Dawson. I don't know. This is one of those ones. This is a fireball and popcorn fight, folks. Fireball and popcorn right here. It's too hard to call. I don't know that there's value on any particular spot. I can see it being a dog or pass type of situation. But again, I don't really want to bet the dog here. So that's where I'm at. We're just going to have to let that one go. It's gotten by me. I'm sorry. We are now on to the main event of the preliminary card. Roman Boldiz taking on Kadis Ibragimov. And I know I'm saying that one right, but that's a mouthful. These two guys going at each other is an absolute mouthful. Roman is a beast. This guy, I could smell a cup of his urine from 2 states over. This guy has a good doctor. If you need me to spell it out for you further, I think he's on the juice. This guy is a brick shithouse. Physically built. Big, muscular, explosive, long jab, really fast, really hard counters, heavy leg kicks. He controls his opponent's range extremely well. He does a good job of staying in where he wants to be or out where he needs to be. He's really good at that. He's underrated at that, I feel like. He always drops his hands and he taunts his opponents. He screams at them and gets in their face. Really entertaining. Really fun to watch. And I think he eggs people into making mistakes because he just kind of drops his hands and he'll do the point at the center of the cage thing and he'll get in your face and scream at you. And, you just feel like you're not doing anything right against this guy. And then you overextend and blam, he hits that shot and you're out cold on the canvas. Deadly ground and pound. If this guy gets on top of you, oh boy, just dunzo. His ground and pound is something else. But he relies on that power. His striking is not super intelligent. He's a beast. He's not super big on technique. And he's got, I know he's 3-3, right? He's 6-0. He's got 3 knockouts, 3 submissions, 100% finish rate. And he's got 3 submissions, so I can't say his ground game is bad. But all I saw on tape was striking. So when he clubs you and then he gets you to the mat and decides to go ahead and take a submission, that's something. But he definitely does not strike me as an aficionado. Now, his first 2 wins in the cage were by heel hooks. So I say that, but maybe I'm underrating this kid's ground game as well. Kadis Ibragimov, you know what the first note I put in on this guy was? So I know I usually like to give you a technical breakdown. I talk about what they're good at, what they're bad at. The very first note I made on Kadis is that he got beat up by Ed Herman. I am a huge short fuse fan. Ed Herman was one of my favorite OG Ultimate Fighter guys, but the times have passed him. He is in Sam Alvey range right now. He's fighting a weight class up from where he naturally should have been. He's way beyond his expiration date. He's still got his power, though. The dude's got heart. He's got grit. He's got that old veteran savvy, and that's enough to get it over on some of these younger guys. And he beat the brakes off of Ibragimov. That was a bad, bad fight. So Ibragimov is undefeated before he gets to the UFC. He gets subbed out by Da Un Jung, and then he gets the brakes beaten off of him by Ed Herman. Not a good look. Kadis is fighting for his job this weekend. That's exactly what's happening here. He does wing these big wild hooks, which extremely counterable, and he bullies his opponents up against the fence. That's his big thing, is he likes to push you up against the cage and beat you up against there. He's this guy that throws everything into every punch. He's always looking to knock you out with a big shot, and he doesn't land them very often. He is durable. He takes a beating well. We saw that in the Ed Herman fight, but he gets tired. He gets sloppy. He makes mistakes. And I think this is all Roman all day. So looking over here at the line, minus 185 on Roman. Again, I hate the damn lines. I hate the lines on this card. The reason I only have one official bet so far for the Saturday card is because these lines, they suck. I want to bet Roman. I think he's going to bulldoze Kadis Ibragimov, but I don't like to rely on UFC debutantes. First time under the bright lights. You have the nerves. He's only 6-0, so even though he's seemingly better, physical, stronger than Kadis everywhere, Kadis has got more experience than he does. New kids slip up. That's what happens. Younger, newer fighters make mistakes, and especially in their UFC debut, they're very, very prone to having a case of the jitters and making mistakes. So I don't want to lay minus 185 on Roman. That's it. I just don't want to do it. And I don't know if Roman is going to get the knockout because of how durable and how tough Kadis has shown that he's been in his career so far. Now, he was choked out by Da Un Jung, and that was late in the fight. But Roman is another guy that relies on his power, so he wings big shots, and unless he gets that knockout, he can get a little tired himself. I'm sure the EPO will kick in, and he'll be just fine. I mean, in his last fight, he landed a third-round knockout at the buzzer, and he's got a second-round knockout on his record as well, so he's not dead late in the fight, and I think he's going to have openings to land those bombs. I do lean to Kadis getting finished here. I think Roman gets it done inside the distance. But I don't know that we're going to get even that great of a line on that because that's the narrative here, right? Everybody thinks that's what's going to happen. Let me see. Yeah, even money. Doldy's inside the distance right now is plus 110. That's kind of the only way I'd be able to look at this fight at the moment. We'll see when the totals come out if I can find something different on it. We'll see when the props come out. I would lean more to knockout than submission just because this guy is a ground and pound monster. That's kind of how I see it happening. But relatively low-level fight, one that we kind of need to be careful on. That'll do it for the prelims, folks. Let's bounce on over to the main card. We are plugging right along. I want to take a break to say thank you to odds.com for hosting the show. Thank you for everybody tuning in. We've got 200 live viewers still hanging out with us today. Appreciate it. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. I would appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe to Odds if you can. Quick little announcement for the rest of the week's schedule so you all know what's going on. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we got weigh-ins. We've got Wednesday night fights. So the weigh-ins are taking place tomorrow, which means my weigh-in show for Wednesday is going to be videoed right after they happen. I do it first thing in the morning, right after I watch the weigh-ins and give everybody my thoughts, my late looks, any last minute pulling the trigger of bets that I do. That'll happen tomorrow. It should be up around noon on odds.com. Make sure you turn on your notifications so you get that as soon as it comes out. I will tweet it out when it comes out, so follow me on Twitter over at DieHardMMAPod. Tomorrow afternoon, as soon as all that is said and done, we will be live streaming here on Odds. I will be hanging out with my boys Nick and Mo Scream, breaking down the props and talking about overs, unders, random things we haven't talked about for the rest of these two fights happening this week. And then we've got fights on Wednesday, obviously, so we'll all be hanging out there. I actually might be jumping on with my boys for the beginning of it, and then I might be jumping on over at Pub Sports Radio. They have invited me to come hang out on Wednesday with them, so I might be doing that. And then Thursday, we will have another Total Madness come out because we'll be doing Saturday's episode of Total Madness as soon as those totals drop for everybody. Friday, we will once again have the weigh-in show for the Saturday card, and then Saturday we got more fights. So it's fight week, folks. Back-to-back fight week. I'm legitimately burning the candle at both ends for this one, working my ass off to bring you the best MMA content this side of the Nile. Let's make some cash. Everybody go buy a t-shirt. We have got Alexander Pantoja taking on Askar Askarov. How do people think the flyweights are boring, folks? How do people think the flyweights are boring? This fight is phenomenal. Alexander Pantoja is 22-4. This dude is legit. He has long been on his way towards title contention, and right now he's knocking on the door. In fact, he almost got the call up to the big leagues. We'll talk about it in a little bit when we get to the main event, but there was a COVID scare for Davis and Figueiredo, and Pantoja was going to be the fill-in to take on Joe Benavidez for that fight. So he almost got the call up. Dana White is on record saying the only reason he's on this card is because they needed him there in case something happened with the main event. If one of them misses weight or something like that, Pantoja's getting the boost up to the title fight. He's taking on Askar Askarov, undefeated prospect coming to us out of Mother Russia. And I am so high on this dude. I love Askar Askarov. Now, this is a huge level jump for Askar, okay? He comes into the UFC and he fights to a split with Brandon Moreno. Now, that fight, perfect draw. That absolutely should have been a draw. They both had their moments. It was phenomenal. And Brandon Moreno is my dark horse at 125. I think that kid's going to fight for the strap, and I think it's going to happen sooner than later. Love Brandon Moreno. So Askar Askarov fighting to a draw with him is just music to my ears. I love that. All right? And I bet Brandon Moreno that night, so I feel like I got off easy. Then he takes on Tim Elliott, which we all know about Tim Elliott, right? We'll talk about him in just a minute too, but not nearly in title contention. He is not on that level. Askar dominated him. I mean, it was a one-sided beating. And we'll talk about this in a minute when we break down Tim's fight, but especially at the end of that fight, Tim had no answers. And he was just walking forward and like rage monster screaming at Askar Askarov while Askar hit him with the kitchen sink. Could not finish Tim Elliott. Hit him with everything he had and couldn't put Tim Elliott away. That dude is durable as hell, even though he's a little crazy. But Askar Askarov's bread and butter is the ground game. So it's going to be interesting to me because both these guys are grappling specialists. Alexander Pantoja trains out of ATT. Phenomenal place to train out of. Really good gym. Obviously, we know how high level that is. Great footwork. Striking has come a long way. He circles well. Big, big, big clinch knees. Good double leg takedowns. And if he gets on your back, he will backpack the crap out of you. Great back control. However, he seems to get tired. He does gas a little bit late. Askar Askarov never gasses. This dude's gas tank is unreal. He's got an excellent jab, works behind that extremely well. He attacks with really hard leg kicks, which I think will be a key in this fight to slowing down the striking game of Pantoja. He has extremely underestimated striking. We don't realize how good this guy's striking is simply because of how good his grappling is. He's got a really big, powerful uppercut that he landed a bunch of times in his recent fights. Good head movement. He strikes while moving backwards. That's a key. If Pantoja is pressing this guy, he will be able to fight off the back foot. That is hard to do. It's not easy, and he can land bombs even when he's essentially sprinting backwards. Extremely effective on the mat. Scramble master. He out-scrambled, arguably, Tim Elliott, who is the scramble king, and then Brandon Moreno, who is the champion scramble king. I mean, if there's two guys that you don't want to scramble with, it's Tim Elliott and Brandon Moreno, and Askar Askarov arguably out-scrambled both of them. If he gets on top of you, his top control is smothering. He switches gears from that BJJ scrambling to that wrestling immediately. I love this guy. And I feel like the line is off, folks. We've got minus 200 on Alexander Pantoja. He opened up at minus 195. It's been bouncing around. Came back the way that I want to see it go. And I'm just sitting tight here for a minute. I'm just going to sit back. Because I'm going to bet Askar Askarov. I'm going to bet him here. I think this is going to be an extremely tight fight. Extremely close. He's underrated on the feet, so he will not be a fish out of water like people think he will be. And then if it hits the mat, I would say he arguably is better than Pantoja. I know that's crazy. I know that's crazy. If you want to clip this video and have me in my face going, Askar Askarov is a better grappler than Alexander Pantoja, you can have it. Take it. Put it out there. I don't care. I know it's a hot take. That's fine. I think Askar Askarov is better. And you know what, Tomer, I see your comment here that he's easy to take down. That's true. But he sweeps. He reverses. He escapes. He scrambles. He's not a guy that you just take down and lay on top of. And that's kind of the key here. So even though he's got a bit of a deficiency there in his takedowns, I don't think it matters. He's the kind of guy that makes it work even though he gets taken down. And James, I see you saying that he was gassing out against Tim Elliott. That's because he was trying to kill Tim Elliott. He had already beaten Tim up for 2 full rounds, and then he was putting everything he had into every single shot to try to put Tim down. He was wailing on Tim, and he couldn't knock him out. So that's the reason he was gassed in that fight. If it was a normal fight and he was still pacing himself and still giving himself, a bit of that flow, he wouldn't have gassed. he was only getting gassed because he was putting everything into everything going for the finish. I love this spot. So I'm going to sit tight. I'm going to hope this line creeps up just a little bit higher. You know, everybody in MMA loves to bet their favorites. They love to lay that chalk. This is another one, just like Max Holloway last week, folks. You're hearing it right now. Just like Max Holloway last week. If this bet loses, I'm fine. I'm fine with taking the shot. I think we have a 50-50 fight, and we will be flipping that coin with a ton of extra juice. So I'm looking forward to betting Askar Askarov on this fight. It's something I'm definitely going to be doing. If that line starts to tilt down just a little bit, I will snag it to make sure we get as good of a line as we can. But at the moment, I'm going to sit back and see what happens to it, because if it keeps on going up, I mean, then it's just a home run, right? If we can get Askar Askarov anywhere in the ballpark of 200, definitely. Here we have the showcase fight of the evening. Ariane Lipski taking on Luann Carolina. And this is one that had me scratching my head just a little bit. Ariane Lipski is a fighter who I have loved to fate. The Violence Queen is exactly what the UFC is looking for. All right, she fits in the category of Amanda Ribas and Paige Vanzant. They are looking to find these incredibly attractive next-level women to fight in MMA. And I'm not trying to be degrading or anything like that. That's a brand thing. If you have got some phenomenally hot female fighters, it's just going to pull the numbers. They do. They move the needle. It's the fact of the world that we live in. And she knows how to work her Instagram, folks, let me tell you. But she also has a damn good skill set. She's working on it, but they threw her into the deep end way too fast. They gave her my girl JoJo Calderwood for her first fight. Oh, what are you doing? You don't give the Instagram model JoJo Calderwood? What are you doing? And then they gave her Meatball Molly. What are you doing? So then they give her a layup. They finally go, okay. So we want her to get rolling here. We need the Violence Queen. We need her to progress a little bit. Let's put her on that career path. And they toss her a softball. And she almost finishes the softball in the first round, but then she gets tired and ends up grinding out a disappointing 3-round decision. So even against her softball, she didn't look phenomenal outside of that first round. That seems to be a bit of an issue for her. She has a very long reach. She uses it well. She's aggressive. And her Muay Thai is on point. She's devastating in the clinch. If she gets in the clinch, she is good from there, but she gives up takedowns. Her takedown defense is terrible. She has these brief, shiny moments where you can see the future for this girl. You really can. But she's still so green. She's still so young. She still slips up. On the other side of the fence here, she's taking on Luana Carolina. And Carolina's kind of in the same boat here. She's 6-1. She made her UFC debut against Priscilla Cachoeira back in May last year, and she's still so green as well. She's a Muay Thai fighter herself, and she's got great knees from the clinch, very tall, very long. She does not move her head. She's extremely hittable, and she's really sloppy at distance. She overextends on everything when she's throwing from distance. When she's in the clinch, when she has you pinned up against her knees and elbows for days. Very dangerous in that area. The other thing I don't like about her is that she moves backwards. She always gives up the center of the cage. She moves backwards and she looks to counter, which in MMA we know, except for Max Holloway apparently, forward pressure matters. Forward pressure scores with the judges. I really want to bet Ariane Lipski here, folks. One thing that is really selling me here, which I think I might have to pull the trigger. This isn't a spot that you really probably should bet. I mean, Ariane Lipski is not a good fighter at this point. She's got those brief, shiny moments. She could get there, but she's fighting someone who's similar with her as far as her skill set at the moment. And I don't know if – I mean, it's not a step up or anything like that, obviously, but I don't know if I should be trusting her with my money. This is a bit coin flippy. But my angle, you ready for this? Luana circles out and runs away every time. She circles away, she runs, she drops her hands, she leaves her chin up. every single time. And Ariane Lipski posted a video of her on Instagram training, having someone pressed up against the cage. She had this combo that she was working on where she had someone pinned against the cage, and then they circle out on her. And as they circle out, she was gauging the timing of whipping a big body kick. They know. Her trainer knows. And they are literally training specifically for Luana's style of running away leading up into this fight. I really think I've got to bet Ariane Lipski here. I'm doing it. Official pick, folks. You're hearing it right now. I'm going to tweet it right after the show. I think I can get minus 115. I'm betting Ariane Lipski. I think she's better. I think she's got the higher ceiling. I also think the UFC are seeing a winnable fight here for her. She's got more pop on her punches. This one may get sloppy. This one may get ugly. But I simply think that Lipski is going to score more than Luana, and Luana is not someone who I expect to take Lipski down. Now, this may be where I'm just selling money down the river. If Luana has a better wrestling pedigree than I expect her to have, if she comes out and takes Lipski down and grinds on her for 15 minutes, I'm going to be banging my head into the nearest hard surface for making this bet. But if this ends up being a stand-up fight, which I think it will be, they're both so young, they're both so green, they both want to strike. I expect this to be a stand-up battle. I think Lipski is going to edge it out. And I think especially seeing the angle from her coaches, seeing the opportunity for her to catch this girl doing what she does in every single fight I've ever seen her fight in, I think I got to take the shot. I'm going to bet Ariane Lipski, folks. I'm sorry. I shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. We all shouldn't do it. We're going to do it. We're going to bet Ariane Lipski. It has been decided. We're going to do it. All right. Charles Chip says, Elliot will win. I like that. Luana is one of Gianni's plays. That's interesting, Bill. That is interesting. I would be very curious to see the reasoning for that. I'm not seeing anything that I'm impressed with Luana, and I really feel like she fits right in the wheelhouse for Lipski. And you know what? Here's the other thing. I don't know. I got to look into the rules on this because I'm not sure how much I can show off as far as other people's material and stuff like that. I know we're not allowed to play music or, stuff like that, but I think we can do stuff like Instagram, right? That's possible. So we've got Lipski's Instagram page here, and you don't need to see how many notifications I have. Geez, go away. What I've noticed is girl's been working out. So this one here, I don't need to play the whole thing for you here, but she's been working out hard. You can tell physically speaking, she's starting to fill out. Look at her arms. And look at this one. This is a good one. The flex here. Look at those biceps. She is starting to thicken up. And you see that a lot with MMA fighters is they just keep on thickening. I know there's probably a better way to say that, but they just continue to get thicker and thicker and thicker. Look at Dustin Poirier. Look at Conor McGregor. Look at even my girl, Jillian Robertson. She's putting on mass. She's putting on size. I think she's going to be able to bully this girl up against the fence. She has the experience edge. We always talk about betting someone who's got more fighting experience. She has been in the cage with JoJo Calderwood, who's going to be fighting for a title soon, folks, and that was in 2019. So she fought Molly McCann, JoJo Calderwood, both girls who would absolutely wreck Luana. And she gave a good account of herself at times. She struggled, she lost, but she gave a decent account of herself. I think I got to take this shot. I'm very curious. I'm shocked to hear that was one of Johnny's picks, but I'm going to take the shot. She's thick, bro. Yes, she is. She's getting there. All right, here we go. And Scott, I can't argue too much there. But she's fighting the right opponent here. She doesn't suck. She's just not quite there yet. I think she's a prospect. I think she's growing. This one's fun, folks. This one is so fun. This is my pick. This is like the sleeper for potentially fight of the night here. Mark Bone Crusher Diakese against Rafael Fiziev. Now, Bone Crusher is a guy who I put my stamp on way back when I first saw him. The very first time I saw this guy fight, I went, I am looking to bet this man. I like Diakese a lot. And unfortunately, he went through a really rough patch. He went through a bad losing streak where they just fed him to the wolves. He lost to Drakkar Klose, Dan Hooker, and Nasrat Haqparast. Talk about a murderer's row. I'm so happy they kept him around because He belongs in the UFC, and that's just a bad run of fights. So then he gets Joseph Duffy. Talked about Joe Duffy. He's one of the guys making me question where Duffy's head's at right now. He's one of the guys that used the leg kicks on him regularly. And then he gets kind of a bit of a step down against Lando Venata. Good fight. Got it done there. Did exactly what you expect to see. He fights long. Good hard jab. Good hard low leg kicks. Constantly uses those. Cuts angles. He throws spinning heel kicks. He switches his stances, which confuses people a lot. And he's got a great pace, great cardio. He doesn't slow down. He's got a very measured pace. He averages just less than about 3 significant strikes per fight. And I think that's on purpose. I think that's because he wants to make sure he maintains his level throughout the entire fight. And I appreciate that. Rafael Fiziev is an incredible striker. 200-plus amateur Muay Thai fights. I mean, long career of Muay Thai fights. Multiple-time Muay Thai world champion. He mixes up the striking extremely well. Winds up big power hooks, though. That's something I think that you can make him pay for. He strikes while moving backwards. He's another one of these guys that can backpedal and land you with bombs. And he is willing to brawl. When I say brawl, it's a technical brawl. He knows what he's doing. It's not just a bite down on the mouthpiece and swing type of brawl. He's sneaky good in these brawl situations. And he does have heavy leg kicks himself. Big clinch knees. I mean, both these guys are absolute bangers, and they're both incredibly durable. So Fiziev got knocked out once against Magomed Mustafayev. Big spinning heel kick that caught him twice in the first round, put him down. Besides that, he's been doing the KOing, or he went to a single decision in his last fight against Alex White. Now, that's something that concerns me a little bit, because I would have expected him to be able to put away a guy like Alex White. Mark Diakese, this dude's a decision machine. He's got the power. He can land knockouts. He's done it before. But his last couple of fights have all gone to decision. His last 5? Yeah, 5 fights in a row. The split to Drakkar Klose. Oh, I'm sorry, 4. He got subbed by Dan Hooker. I thought that one went to decision. And then Nasrat Haqparast, Joseph Duffy, and Lando Venata. So this guy is going to be in the fight from bell to bell. Fiziev has a much higher work rate as far as his significant strikes are concerned, but Diakese seems to be a little bit more efficient, I guess you'd say. And the line on this one has me scratching my head a little bit. Diakese is minus 160. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I feel like this is a coin flip. I really feel like this is an extremely close fight. I do think that – I don't even want to say I think that Mark Diakese gets the win. Maybe he does. Both guys can knock out, but both guys are incredibly durable. Mark Diakese has started doing this thing where he just paces himself. I think it's Mark Diakese by decision. That's kind of how I'm looking at this one. I don't know that either of these guys is going to land big enough bombs to finish this thing. And here we go. Sean, I want to go ahead and highlight your comment here again, man. Fiziev does great with the body kicks. Diakese does get tired. I like Fiziev to get the body in a late finish. I mean, maybe so. But Diakese is he's durable, man. He knows how to dig through that stuff, and the submission offense isn't going to be there. It's KO or bust for Fiziev. This is just going to be a striker's delight. As much as I hate to say it, this may be a fireball and popcorn fight. I want to back my boy Diakese. Beyond a betting perspective, I'm just a huge fan of this guy. I love Mark Diakese, and I really want to see him do well. And my fandom is pushing me to bet on him, and we all know that's the wrong answer. I think this is a coin flip. I think it's almost a dog or pass situation because I don't know where the justification comes for Diakese being such a favorite over a guy like Fiziev. Fiziev has tons of experience, high-level experience. So even though Diakese has UFC caliber experience, Fiziev is not lacking in that area. And I don't expect Diakese to come in and take this fight to the mat or anything. I don't think this is going to be a wrestling game. So, yikes. I am not sure. I think it's dog or pass. Fiziev at plus 140 seems interesting to me, but I think it's going to be close, squeaky on a decision. If I had to bet it, because of my bias, I would go Diakese by decision. But I think it's going to be close. And maybe a late finish, Maybe you guys are right. Maybe a late finish is something that happens here when both guys slow down a little bit. Somebody just uncorks a bomb. But honestly, I want nothing to do with this fight. I'm going to be doing my shot of fireball, and I'm going to sit back and enjoy this one. We are moving right along. We're almost done, folks. We got the co-main event of the evening. Jack Hermanson taking on Kelvin Gastelum. Another extremely interesting fight. Another one that's got me really scratching my head. I told you, this week is hard, guys. So last week, we knew it was going to be chalky. It was easy as far as, hey, bet all the favorites, parlay everybody, do round robin parlays. We knew that's what was going to happen last week. Saturday was easy from that perspective, but finding value was the hard part. Y'all know me, I'm a value hunter. I'm never going to apologize for trying to find a good line as opposed to laying a crap ton of chalk. But this week is really, really difficult. The matchups are extremely interesting. They're very good. They're very equal across the board. I mean, there's lots of ways these fights can go, and it's going to be hard to find those value spots. So Jack Hermanson, 20-5, taking on Kelvin Gastelum, 16-5. Hermanson's 32 years old. Kelvin Gastelum is 28, which he really seems like he should be older than that. We've seen Kelvin fight for a long, long time. Jack Hermanson coming off a bad knockout against Jared Cannonier, maybe the newest, hardest puncher in this weight class at 185. And, not like a big, he's dead knockout. So I think he's taken off enough time. It's been about a full year since the knockout, which even if he had been just completely demolished out cold, that's about the amount of time I want to see people taking off to recover from those types of shots. And he's only been knocked out twice. Yeah. Pardon me. Sorry. He's only been knocked out twice. The other one was by Thiago Santos. Big whoop, right? Thiago Santos knocks out everybody. I love it. Yes. We're going to leave that right there. Thank you. And so there's no shame in being knocked out by those two guys, right? He's coming off a questionable run, though, to get into title contention. Talis Leites, knockout over him. Good. That's a good one on your record, but he's a bit of the old guard here. Gerald Meerschaert, he subbed him in round one. Not the highest level of competitor, but he did what he's supposed to do. Subbed him immediately, right? David Branch, definitely shot. We faded him. We faded him hard, and we got paid for it. Subbed him in first round. That was beautiful. Jacare Souza, that's the one. Relatively championship level fighter, maybe a bit on the backslide, but not a bad win whatsoever. Beat him over 5 rounds and had some really great moments in that fight. His biggest story here is the takedown offense, right? He's a grappler first and foremost, and he knows that. He's not a guy that's fallen in love with his striking, although his striking is not half bad. Lots of chaining takedowns. Turns the corner on those takedowns to either take the back or get it to the mat very well. He does use the body lock well. Attacks with clinch knees. He's one of these good guys that he fights well from range. He uses his jab to maintain that distance, and he's all in or all out. He's either coming in to clinch with you, get you to the mat, or he's all out where you're going to have a hard time with his range. And this guy is lanky, folks. 77-inch reach. So I think he uses that range extremely well. If he gets you in that body locker, he gets you to the mat, he transitions to the back immediately. And this is another guy who has a membership to the old club and sub club. That's another good one, club and sub club. If he can rock you, he gets you on the mat and he chokes your ass out every time. And I got another angle on this one. Some more Instagram stalking. I like to keep these people close. You can't hide from me. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm sorry. Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum, 15-5, very well-rounded. 5 decisions, 4 submissions, 6 knockouts, power bombs in his hands. I mean, really long jab, really fast hands, big power, attacks well. When he breaks out of the clinch, he always makes you pay for clinching with him, which that could definitely come into play in this fight. Constant forward pressure. He blitzes in, so he's another one of these guys that controls the range pretty well. And when he closes it, he tries to land bombs on you. He also looks for the body lock. He likes to press people up against the cage and bully them there. He's got this short, stocky frame. I feel like he's a little small for the division, though, and that's still just always going to be a problem. And even if he's a little undersized, he's just always dangerous. Even all the way into the later rounds of the fight, he is always dangerous. So he's in a bit of a rough patch. He's 2-3 in his last 5. He's coming off of the fight of the year against Israel Adesanya back in 2019. And then he lost a very close split to Darren Till. Now, Darren Till still hasn't proven it to me at 185. I'm high on him. I think he's going to do well here. I think he belongs here. But the fact that Kelvin drug him to a split, Kelvin didn't really seem like himself there. I'm honestly worried that he left a piece of himself in the cage against Israel Adesanya. That's one of those fights that I don't think you ever get back. Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald, both of them left a piece of themselves in the cage after the war that they had. Israel seems to have come out okay, but we have yet to know that for sure. His fight with Yoel was less than spectacular, so maybe he left a piece of himself in there in that war too. But the big story here for me is Jack Hermanson's reach. That 77 reach advantage is a 6-inch reach advantage over Kelvin Gastelum. 6, folks. That's half a foot. I mean, that is a huge, huge difference. He also has a decent height advantage. He's 6'1" to Kelvin Gastelum's 5'9". And if Kelvin Gastelum wants to implement the wrestling with this guy, I just feel like that's a bad idea. You clinch up with this guy, you put him up against the cage, he's going to look for your neck, he's going to lay his body weight on top of you, he's going to tire you out. It makes me nervous. It makes me nervous for old KG because I'm a big Kelvin Gastelum fan, but I think this is a very, very bad matchup for him. The fact that he's going to be at that reach disadvantage and really be reaching, and I'm sorry for reusing that term, but really reaching to close that distance. He's going to have to blitz in, and he's going to have to go longer without getting caught by something. Jack Hermanson is going to be able to avoid those blitz attacks, I feel like. And even if he doesn't, he'll use the opportunity to clinch, grab him, drag him to the mat. And we know Kelvin Gastelum's real Achilles heel has been on the mat for the most part his entire career. The one thing that really jumps out to me is that loss to Chris Weidman. I know that was back in 2017. It was 3 years ago. But, bro, you got subbed out by Chris Weidman in 2017. Like, that's when Chris Weidman was really on his way down. And he still choked that one away. And Jack Hermanson, I feel like, is Chris Weidman 2.0. Like, he doesn't have the wrestling that Chris has, but the reach makes up for that. And his submissions might even be a little bit more dangerous. I'm leaning to Jack Hermanson here. I don't know if I'm going to get to the window on this one. I thought about betting him when it was plus even money. It looks like I'm not the only one to think that there might be some value there. This one's kind of coming back down here. It looks like they opened him up minus 120, slight favorite over Kelvin. And then Kelvin got pushed to be in the favorite. Could have got even money here on Hermanson, but I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger yet. Hadn't done my research yet. So here we are. I'm still staring at it. This is one that you'll have to follow me on Twitter and keep an eye out. I might lock this one in later. I don't know if I want to, if money's going to keep coming in on Jack. I don't know if I want to lay the wood on him. But it feels almost like a step on the throat spot for Kelvin Gastelum. I know that sounds strange. I haven't had a very good run of stepping on the throats of fighters that seem like they're down and out. They seem to bounce back against me very, very well. But Hermanson was on a really great 4-fight winning streak until he ran into Cannonier. And Cannonier hits harder than Gastelum, I can promise you that. And Gastelum, even though he's got big hands, even though he's got speed, that reach, the size, that's just a mountain to climb here. This one might end up just being hairy and going to a decision again, but I also feel like if Jack gets Kelvin on the mat, he's probably going to sub him out or knock him out. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. This one, like I said, it might just end up needing to be a pass. Yeah, there we go. Great point, James. Great point. Gastelum hasn't beaten anybody in the current top 10. Is that true? I'm going to have to look that up. If that's true, that's a big deal. But, I mean, we saw he was able to go toe-to-toe with Adesanya, who's incredible. So I'm not questioning Gastelum's ability or his heart. He's there. He's definitely there. But, yeah, I think I'm going to ride the Joker on this one. We'll see what ends up happening if I actually bet it or if I just cheer for him and hope I'm right and look good. We're going to have to tread carefully. And that does it. Main event time, folks. We've made it. We're at the main event of the evening. We are at 234 live viewers. Thank you all so much for hanging out to me. Once again, please be sure you follow me over at Die Hard MMA Pod on Twitter. That's where I lock in all my bets. As soon as I make a bet, I lock it in on Twitter, and that's when you'll know that it's an official pick, and you also get the line. So if I make a bet and you're seeing a huge difference between what I got and what you got, obviously all lines vary from book to book, so I can't promise you'll get exactly the line I've got, but I tend to beat some of these line moves. I see short favorites and I hit them early more often than not. So sometimes I screw up with the dogs because I get a little overexcited and I hit them early trying to lock the price up. Anyway, follow me on Twitter. Subscribe here to Odds HQ, best MMA channel on YouTube today, and we're just going to get better, folks. We're just going to get better, and we're going to bring in more content once the other major sports come back. You want to be here at Odds HQ. Davey and Figueiredo taking on Joseph Benavidez, the rematch. We got to talk about all the drama here. So Deiveson Figueiredo pops for COVID, right? First and foremost, that's what you got to know. Deiveson Figueiredo legitimately had COVID, and it was not that long ago. I want to say it was just a couple weeks ago. So he clears up. He ends up getting cleared. And then right before this fight happens, just a couple of days ago, he tested positive again, which I know you can relapse. You can essentially catch COVID a second time if you've caught it before. That happens. So they cross their fingers and pray that it's a false positive, and they test him again. He passes the second time. So because of that, now he's on a plane out to Abu Dhabi, and he's going out there a whole lot later than he probably should have. He's probably arriving in Abu Dhabi now, either like yesterday or today. And he should have been out there a decent chunk before, but because of that first positive test, they were essentially ready to cancel this fight and move Pantoja up to being the main event. So he's going out there. He's going to be a little jet lagged from the travel. I like to see fighters traveling, across time zones out there a little bit earlier than that. That's already a factor for me. The fact that he had COVID potentially twice, because even though that positive flipped over to being a negative, he maybe could have had COVID more than once, and we know how draining and exhausting that can be. And remember, this thing affects your lungs. It attacks people with breathing problems and asthma. Can you imagine trying to train for a fight while you have COVID? I mean, if you can't breathe and you can't run as well as you used to, or you can't push yourself in training as well, how are you expecting to have a good, solid training camp under COVID? It's a big mark against Deiveson Figueiredo, in my opinion. But we've got to give props where it's due, right? This guy's a beast. 18-1, huge power in both of his hands, physically imposing, good power striker, kind of relies on that power a bit, but don't get me wrong, he's solid. He's not one of these, sluggers that only has a big bomb. He's quite technical himself. Good, strong hips, good takedown defense, but he's willing to take a punch to give a punch. That's the big story for me with Deiveson Figueiredo. He has a negative significant strike differential. He has a 2.54 significant strike rating and absorbs 2.76 per minute. So he has literally been outstruck by his UFC opposition in terms of significant strikes. He's just one of these guys that bites down on the mouthpiece and hits harder. So even though you hit him, he hits you back and he knocks you out. But I don't think that works at the highest level. Now, I know. He already beat Joe once, and he knocked him out. So you'll be like, Clint, you idiot. Obviously, it works at the highest level. He already did it. But we have to remember how controversial Benavidez versus Figueiredo 1 was. I went back and I watched the tape just to double check and make sure. That headbutt did everything. Joe Benavidez was cruising in that fight. Joe's awkward movement and striking is something else. He is so hard to time. He is so hard to pin down. He mixes in leg kicks and he mixes in takedowns. And it's all from these awkward lunging shots that he takes with his punches. And he mixes them in so well you don't know what's coming. You don't know if it's a takedown. You don't know if it's a leg kick. You don't know if it's a cross. You don't know if it's a jab. He just blends it all into this mess of striking. And it's so hard to unravel. And Figueiredo wasn't unraveling it. Joe was outlanding him almost 2-1. In the first fight, Joe landed 46 significant strikes to Figueiredo's 25. And it wasn't until the clash of heads happened. As soon as the clash of heads happened, Joe's eyes kind of glaze a little bit. He touches his head and blood starts pouring out of this cut. And seconds, just a split second before the big knockout punch from Figueiredo, Joe does this. The hand he usually parries with comes up to check the blood on his hand. Boom! That's when the punch landed. Folks, if that headbutt doesn't happen, Joe is already the champ. I'm telling you, I bet Joe as a dog the first time. I'm betting him again here. He is the better fighter. He's got a good chin. The only reason he got clipped with that big bomb was because of the distraction with the headbutt. He's going to outland Figueiredo. He's going to win on the scorecards. And Figueiredo's got a damn good poker face. Joe was hurting him. He had a hematoma that was already growing on the side of his head. Figueiredo was. And a lot of people forget that. A lot of people forget how many big counter hooks Joe landed on Figueiredo before the end of that fight. He was landing hard, big shots that would have put anybody else down. Figueiredo's got a good chin, but I have questions right now about his gas tank. I have questions about his health. because of the COVID thing. I have questions about his cycle because he's going out to Abu Dhabi on short notice. I have questions about whether or not he can make the weight. Now, I know he is coming in lighter, they said. He's 10 pounds lighter as of right now than he was the first time, so that's a good sign for Davison backers. But how much of that was working on his cardio just to keep his weight down and not actually working on his skill set? Joe is miles ahead of him in the striking area, and Joe's got a damn good chin. I think he's only been knocked out twice. Yes, twice. His entire career, Joe Benavidez has only been knocked out twice, and one of those was from the GOAT Demetrius Johnson back in the day. And if it wasn't for that headbutt, I don't think Davison Figueiredo knocks him out. So it may sound stupid. I'm going back to the well. This is another one that I'm going to be okay with if it loses. Joe Benavidez should not be plus 190 to any flyweight on the planet. He's fought the who's who of 125. He fought Henry Cejudo, and he holds a win over the greatest flyweight, in my opinion, that we've seen in a generation. And he fought very closely and respectively with Demetrius Johnson. I mean, he went to a split decision with him the first time they fought. I know that was a long time ago. But let's look at this. Jussier Formiga, Dustin Ortiz, Alex Perez, Henry Cejudo, Sergio Perez, Tim Elliott, DJ, Jussier Formiga again. And I mean, he just finishes damn near everybody. Like, you got to give Joe props. I think we got a new champ here, folks. And I know people talk about, I don't know why people question Joe's chin. I really don't. He got knocked out. Again, this was a bit of a fluke. And it was 5 months ago. It also wasn't one of these life-changing knockouts where he's seeing stars, he's looking up, you know, his eyes are rolled back and the referee's picking his feet up. That's not the type of knockout that he suffered here. He was down on a knee, and blood was pouring from his head from that headbutt. He was already rocked from that headbutt. Yes, don't get me wrong, that was a bad knockout. He got hit hard. They snapped his jaw back into his spine, but he just got hit on the button. That happens. Over Joe's career, he's proven that he is incredibly difficult to hit. I don't think that's a knockout that's going to make me question Joe's durability. And even though he's been around forever, he's only 35. We talk about that 40-year-old mark. We talk about people who they start to deteriorate later in their careers, especially when they get closer to that 40-year-old age. But Joe's only 35, folks. He's still got plenty of time. And Figueiredo's 32. So, I mean, it's not like he's that much younger. I'm on Joe. I have stated my case. I have planted my flag. The bet is locked in. You can see it scrolling along. Let's see. This way. It's coming. It's coming. It's going to be. No, not you. Usman got it. Ching. Benavidez plus 190. Locked in, folks. I've already bet Joe Benavidez, and you can't talk me out of it. And we beat a line move. I'm seeing Benavidez has already come back down to plus 170. So I hope if you were tailing me on that one, I hope you got on it already because plus 190 is a gift. He shouldn't be 2-1 against anybody. I still think there's plenty of value at plus 170. I think he wins the fight. And the other thing we've got to keep in mind is he is married to Olivia. What's her name? The reporter, the UFC reporter. Why am I blanking on her name? He's married to her, and she's been out there throughout this whole thing already. So I think Joe's going to be so much more acclimated than Figueiredo is. It's just one more outside the box thing. Megan, thank you. I see all the comments. Thank you. Megan O'Leary. He's married to Megan O'Leary. He's been dark on Instagram, folks. Like, you can't really get anything from Joe's Instagram as far as his training or anything like that goes. He's a consummate professional. You know he's in shape. You know he's hungry. You know he's training. The one thing that's eluded him has been the belt. And he's probably out there with his wife, right? I mean, like, your wife goes out, you know you're fighting in a week or two. He's probably out there with her already. I can't confirm it, but I'm suspicious that he's probably already out there, probably training, probably ready to go. I'm so pumped. I am so pumped. This is a good fight card. We were this close to having another absolute banger of a night at UFC 251. I mean, if Tybura had gotten the choke, we're free rolling. We have a slight positive. If either of those bad beats go our way, we're slight negative or even. And then with the Yan KO and the Yan in round 5, If you tailed me on that, obviously we broke even or even made a little bit of money, even though the record doesn't show it. But we could have had a home run again last week. We were so close, and that's what we're going to do. We keep positioning ourselves for those home run nights. And I've got a good feeling about this week. I've got more bets riding on the Wednesday card right now. I will be adding bets onto the Friday card. We're on Benavidez plus 190. I will be adding Lipsky as soon as I jump off here at whatever line I can get her at. Hopefully it's the plus 115 and I don't have to lay, 120 or 125 with her, but I got to take it on. I got to take it on that one. I will be betting Askarov. I would like a little bit better than plus 170, but I will take plus 170 if that's all I can get. So far, that's it, folks. We got a couple of other spots that I'm going to be staring at very, very closely and looking at potentially making a move on. A couple of props. I like a couple of inside the distance props. And, of course, as always, I find totals. So make sure you tune in to the rest of the week. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Go check out my boys at Goat Capital Sports. Make sure you subscribe here at Odds HQ. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at DieHardMMAPod. And make sure you get a t-shirt. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I'm signing off. Your boy's calling it a night. I've been working my ass off the last couple of days, and this week is going to be a nightmare for me. And I've got to keep this cheery disposition the entire time because, as you all know, I'm not nearly as fun when I'm not happy and over the top and having a good time. So I will do my best to keep the energy high throughout this entire week. Tune into Odds HQ. Going live with my boys tomorrow. We got the weigh-in recaps tomorrow. Fights on Wednesday. We've got streams going each and every way for those fights. We're going to have more weigh-in recap and more Total Madness on Thursday and on Friday. Everybody just, you know what? Stay positive. As always here on the Die Hard MMA podcast, we stay positive. We bet the dog. Do shots, cash bets. Die Hard MMA podcast. Love you guys. Hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions. Glass half full. The world's a crazy place right now. Give somebody a hug. Wear your mask. Later.